Luke, you ready to rock out this tutorial? I thought so. As you may or may not know, I am a huge lover of dogs. This is my dog, Luke the Labradoodle. And today I've put together a very special tutorial for you where I have built a whole new page and I'm gonna show you, and then we're gonna build this thing together so you can follow right along. All right, Luke, you ready to do this? All right, let's get him out of the way and then jump straight into it. So here is the page that we're going to build. I went ahead and just mocked up this page for a dog training company, a homepage. I'm a big fan of training your dog. It's super key. At any rate, this is exactly what we're gonna go through and build together step by step. So let me go ahead and put these things on so I can actually see what I'm doing, and let's jump straight into the CMS and get this thing started. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab a template. We'll just call this demo. And then I'm gonna literally start with one of the most basic templates. Usually when I want to build something completely from the ground up, I'll always start with the thank you template. It's because it's really only got one module. And if I know I'm gonna add a bunch of different modules, it's typically my go-to. And so in this case, we're just gonna go ahead and use this as our base, and I'm just gonna fill everything in. So we have our little demo up, so we're gonna work on this portion first. Now, the one thing that you'll know is what I ended up doing is utilizing ChatGPT to get a lot of my content. If you are not using AI or ChatGPT to help you with marketing copy and things like that, you're missing out. It's pretty awesome. So you're gonna see me jump over here from time to time. But let's go ahead and start with this hero section, and I'm just gonna kind of go through it as I would normally building out a page. I'll talk through it a little bit as we go. So first things first, I'll come into the style section and go under the section style so I can add that cool background video. So what I'll do is first I'll turn the background video option on. I'll likely want to add a little bit of a darker overlay just so that the white text can shine through. 40%'s probably pretty good. And the next thing we want to do is we want to remove the full screen background so it can just basically be just up in this area and not fill the screen. So we'll turn that off and quickly apply changes to kind of see where we're at. Cool. So there's a little bit of space that we need to tune up. So let's go over to the row settings, and then we're going to go spacing around content. And then I'll probably do something like 150 on top for desktop, maybe like 100 on the bottom. And then for tablet, I'll do like 150, and I'll just keep the mobile settings the same. I'd probably want to address those, but for the sake of time, we're just gonna leave that as it is. So let's apply those changes. Okay, it's looking all right, but let's just try 150 instead, just to give it a little bit more room. Okay, that's definitely getting better. Now, what we wanna do is we wanna actually add that background video. Now, the one thing about video in HubSpot modules is you actually have to add it under the content tab. So you'll notice once I turn that feature on, now I can come in here and actually add that video clip. Now, one quick tip is I've used Pexels, which is a free stock service. They have free and paid, but I went through here and basically searched for dog. I found, whoops, not photos. I actually searched video and then dog. And then I found this cool video and went ahead and downloaded it. The one thing we need to know about downloading videos is they need to be very small in file size. So one of the things I highly recommend you look into, and what I used, is the HitPaw video converter or video compressor. This can basically really help, and I'll show you what I mean. So if we go in and I browse for my videos, I've already uploaded it. So let's just go to Clean Pro, Tutorials, and then here's my video right here. Now you can see if I click into the details, this video is only 2.7 megabytes, which is incredibly small for a video. So make sure you're optimizing. So let's go ahead and insert that. Hit apply changes just so we can see what happens. Cool. Let's keep going. Let's add some of that content on the top. So one thing that I'm gonna do just to make things go a little bit faster is I'm gonna just come over here and copy this so I can just paste it into place. Now with the magic module itself, you have these content elements. So I already have one right here. So I usually like to give it a name like headline, and then this is gonna be rich text. So all I'm gonna do is paste that right in here. Now I'll select this and then come over and align this center. Okay, this is actually important. Sometimes this happens when you select all of the text, so it'll just remove the formatting. So chances are you're gonna have to come back in and we'll add a H1, and then let's just see, this one, we'll do this as an H4. Now we'll select all the text, let's make it white. Cool, let's turn on dark mode so we can actually see it and publish those changes. Nice, okay, starting to look good. What else do we need? We actually need this get started button. We wanna make this a little bit slimmer. So here's what we're gonna do. First, we're gonna add another content element. This one we'll call get started button. We'll come and grab one of our buttons and it's gonna open this up. So you can select from a HubSpot CTA, which typically I would, but we're just gonna go ahead and use the standard button for the sake of time. So we'll call this getting started. I'm gonna leave it as my primary button color, and I'm not gonna bother adding a link to it, but that is where I would do that. Okay, cool. That's actually okay, but you know what? I like that button to pop a lot more, so let's try one of my other button styles like tertiary. Cool, that white button is actually looking much better, but now let's go ahead and go back to the button so we can get that thing center aligned. So we'll go here, we'll center align that, apply changes, and see how this looks. Cool, it's coming along. Now, there's a little bit of odd like spacing right here where I'd want the button a little lower. So the one thing I can do is I can go back to the other content element with my text, and I can scroll right down here to the space below content, and I'll do like 25 pixels, and we'll see how that looks. Better, maybe I'll do 50 actually. And honestly, this is exactly what I do as I'm designing. I'll just kind of like make little micro movements and keep applying changes. Okay, a couple more things. Let's get this text to actually look better and more of a slimmer profile. So under row settings, we'll do size and we'll do slim. And then the last little bit is we want to actually come in here and do this cool little wave feature. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go under the section settings and add wave. And we're gonna add it to the bottom and then come into here. And let's just try option 1 and see what happens. Okay, that looks cool, but I actually want it on the other side where the thing comes up. All right, cool. I think we're actually getting pretty close. Again, I'm just trying to kind of get into the general area. Okay, so a couple things that we can already see. So one, this nice clear navigation on the top, whereas right now we have the white navigation. So here's how we would quickly address that. I would go into the Contents tab to Header Footer Override. And in this case, it's using our sticky nav style. So I want to go ahead and turn that off so that it's using our standard global header style. So now that actually looks even better. Cool, let's keep moving. So we have this little Lottie animation and some text here. So what we want to do is we just want to go ahead and grab a magic module. And you're going to notice I'm going to use the magic module quite a few times in this quick tutorial. Well, somewhat quick. So here's our magic module. Let's go ahead and add 2 columns. And what I want to actually do, since this column is a little bit smaller, I want to go ahead and change the column arrangement. So I might do something like 4, 8. And so if we apply changes and see what happens here, cool. This column's obviously a little bit more narrow compared to the other column. So the next thing we want to do is we want to use a Lottie animation. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So we want to make sure we turn on the Lottie animation file so it has all the needed JavaScript to, well, make it work. So now that we've got that all set up, let's go back so we can start editing the content elements in each column. So if we go into this one, by default, these are always going to be rich text editors, so just something to be aware of, but we'll just call this Lottie animation, and then cruise down here and then search for Lottie. Now, you don't technically have to name it exactly the same. I've only done that just for the sake of ease, but if you have multiple, it's just a good way to keep these things organized, especially when you're looking at a list with a few different content elements. So let's just go ahead and quickly jump over to Lottie, which is right here. And I already have an account. You can sign up for a free account to be able to at least grab any of these. And this is the one that I grabbed. So if I look at that and I save it to my workspace, which I think it's already saved actually, then I can come over to my workspace over here, and I'll show you exactly what you need to do in order to grab what the link needed. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to do handoff and embed. You want to make sure that that's actually clicked. The next thing that you want to do is you want to come over to the optimized JSON file. That's the one that we want. So let's go ahead and click on that. And then there is, well, let's just make sure that that's good. Okay, now we can copy this because this is actually what we need to bring into our module. So I can pop right on over here. I can paste this right here. And then the last bit is to add a unique ID. So I'll do like dog-1. And so let's just see if that actually works. Boom, looks great. Okay, cool. So now let's go ahead and just quickly grab this content right here and we'll paste it into place in column 2. So let's just go back to column 2. Again, good measure, I'll just say text, and then we'll paste this right into place. Now, there's gonna be a couple things that we can do with the text to get this looking great. And other thing I like to do is I like to make sure that I can go back and forth and just see what this is gonna look like full screen. So now that we know that that's set up and a little wide, I'll probably wanna change that. So I'll come into the Styles tab. I'm gonna go under Row Settings and Size of Content. And in this case, I wanna use a custom content width. And I'm gonna do a custom width of 1140, not that big, and apply those changes just to see how that looks. Cool. Now we have a little bit of extra space up here. So the one thing that I would want to do is I'd want to go into the spacing around the content and probably change this to maybe 25, I'd say, and we'll do another 25 on tablet, and mobile's probably fine. So that actually is looking pretty good. However, we want this text to be more center aligned with the Lottie file. So the way that we would do that is we'd actually come into the column settings and then column 2, design extras, and then we would look for the vertical alignment and center that. So once we do that, we can see how that actually can now center that content, which actually looks pretty good. So let's go back over to our demo here, and what do we got next? Okay, so we have this section right down here. So once again, let's just go ahead and come back, and I'm gonna go ahead and use my world famous magic module, and we wanna drag that and drop it in place. Sometimes HubSpot does not cooperate. Let's see, there we go. So we'll drop that one into place. I always recommend using a magic module, even if it's just for the header or just some simple text. It can just make your life pretty easy, and I'll show you why in just a second. So first, let's go ahead and go under column 1 and add our text right here. So again, let's call this text. And why train your dog? Because it's much better in life if you have a trained dog. Untrained dogs, not so much fun. Okay, so I'll center that. It's a heading 2, and let's just see how that actually looks right now. Cool, so next thing we wanna do is we wanna add a little bit of a background on this container so we can create a section. This just gives a little bit of visual weight to specific sections so that you know the content's grouped together. So in this case, I will go into the background and I'm gonna give it a color. And then I'm gonna select the background color of maybe some like light gray. And one of the reasons I'm gonna use light gray is because what I wanna do is I wanna put some cards on top of it that have a white background because it kind of helps them jump off the page a little bit. You're gonna see what I mean in just a second. So now that we have that, what we wanna do is we actually wanna come over here and we wanna build out this section. So let's go ahead and come back to our list. Let's just see if HubSpot will cooperate this time. And we'll drag that right there. Now, I just messed up. I actually don't want to bring in a magic module. That was my fault. What I want to use is the VersaCards module. VersaCards module is great, especially for that card sort of layout, and I'll show you why in just a second. So we've got that. So this is going to be how we set up those cards. So under Start here, yeah, we only want 3 cards for right now. We'll just be using the Flexi cards for this version. But first, let's go ahead and get that content added in there. So we'll go back here and we'll open up card number 1. And first, let's go ahead and just grab one of our pictures. So we'll grab this picture, which I've already loaded up. One of the things that I've been experimenting with a little bit, again, is utilizing AI to generate some of these images, which can honestly be game-changing. So definitely, I would experiment with that. I use typically Midjourney. This is just a tool that works with Midjourney, but definitely check that out. So let's go ahead and jump back to the page. And now what I'm gonna do is I wanna go ahead and just grab some of our content. So we'll do get this content right here. And we'll go ahead and paste that right in here. Again, what we wanna do is we wanna center these individually. That way they don't lose their formatting if you're doing this copy paste technique. So that's cool. And then just for clarity, I'm gonna grab this title and I'm gonna use it for the FlexiCard name so that in that little list, we're gonna be able to see which one it is. Okay, we got one done. Let's do the next one. And we'll do this one really fast. Come on over here, we'll grab this. You know, generally speaking, copying and pasting content from other websites can be a little risky because sometimes it can bring along additional style that will overwrite any of the theme styles. Since I'm already using the theme, I'm at a lot less risk, but be really careful of that. And if you're noticing that happens, you can always go under the more and then use this little icon to clear any styles that might have gotten pulled over. So just something to kind of think through if you are doing this copy and paste. Cool, so let's get this one. And then let's do one more. And we'll get this one. I'm doing my very best to keep this tutorial under 30 minutes, which we'll see if I have to stop early. But this page, when I was actually building it, probably from the ground up with everything that I did, it took me about an hour, maybe, utilizing Clean. Obviously, I know Clean like the back of my hand. However, it goes to show just how fast you can prototype with a tool like this. So let's go ahead and jump over, add that. And then we want to grab this name so that we can put it right up here so that we can remember what's going on. And just to be clear, as we go back, those names show up right here. Now, a cool trick about the VersaCards, I don't want to digress too much, is say we wanted this one in position number 1, I could just really easily drag that up and throw it in position number 1. And that can become really, really handy, especially when you have like a lot of these cards on the page and you either have to add one more or remove one. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so a couple other style elements that we want to add. I want to add some little rounded corners on these. So I can go into the FlexiCard style and I can just pump this guy up to 10 right here to see how that looks. Now the next little trick is I want to actually connect these two, but I'm going to do it in a way that actually gradiates down into white. So there's a nice smooth transition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the backgrounds. I'm going to go to gradients. So I want a top to bottom gradient. On top, I want to use the same color as I'm using right here. So it's going to be this one. And then for the bottom color, I'm going to gradiate down into white. So let's just see how that looks. Okay, color picker, get out of the way. So you can actually start to see it, how the white just subtly pops off that gray background just a little bit more. All right, so let's just check out our page and see how we're doing. One quick little alteration is this space, a little too much space here. So the one thing I would want to do is come into the row settings of my VersaCards module. Oops, spacing around contents, and I'll set that. Actually, I'll just delete that, and I'll probably do the same on tablet, just so we can really make sure that we're connecting these two pieces. That's actually a little bit better. I'm gonna apply these changes, and then I'm gonna actually go back over to this module, go into the Styles tab, and do a little bit of the same for the spacing on the bottom. So in this case, maybe I'll do 25, like I'll just split the difference, and I'll do the same thing on tablet. And let's just see how that looks. Cool, way better, way better. So what do we got next? So now we have this little section with our accordions. So let's go ahead and pop on over here, make sure we apply our changes. And you guessed it, what are we gonna grab? A magic module. There is a reason it is called that, because it can be used for virtually everything. It is magical. Okay, so under start here, I wanna make sure that this is 2 columns, and I want the text column to actually have a little bit less space. So I'll do something like a 5-7. Now, since we're gonna use the accordions here, we wanna make sure we come down and we use accordion or turn this feature on. So let's go ahead and apply changes and see where we're at. Cool, that looks great. Let's pop on over and do our quick copy and paste. And come up here. Under content 1, here's our text elements. Text, and let's paste that right there, apply changes. Now we can move on to column 2 and set up our accordions. So we'll go back here, back one more, and then we're gonna jump into this one. Now I can just edit this, and we'll call this a accordion, and we'll search for that as well. Here's our accordions. Now we can just go in and add one. So what I'm gonna do for the sake of time, and I'm not just copying and pasting, since we already know what these look like, I'm just gonna go ahead and add a few. So we'll just add 3. Now, of course, I can just edit the content and things of that nature, but for the sake of time and to get to the other sections, we're just gonna do something like this, which already looks a little bit better. So again, our spacing with this, I wanna horizontally align it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump over to the Styles tab, go into the column settings, column 1, and then again, under design extras, we're looking for the center alignments. So let's just see if that actually helps us at all. Cool, it actually just bounces it down just enough to look a little bit more intentional. So let's go ahead and close this. That's actually looking not so bad. What I might want to do with this section, again, is vary the content's width. So I'd go under the styles, row settings, and then add that same custom width that I used above. If I'm going to vary width on a page, I usually like to keep it a little consistent with other elements, just because it makes the page flow a little bit easier. So now if we look at this, that actually looks really nice. All right, next section is how we train our dog. And so what we're gonna do, you guessed it, we're gonna add another magic module. In this case, what we wanna do again is we wanna set this to 2 columns. On this side, we wanna actually have the video on the left. So we're gonna give it a little bit more precedence. We'll give the video a larger frame than the text, so 7:5. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna come into column 1 and let's get that video added. So I'll just say video, come and grab my video. And this is a HubSpot video. So this is an embedded video. And I'm gonna use the same video, doesn't really matter, but that's how you would actually do that so someone can click the play button. The next thing we're gonna do is pop on over and we're gonna grab how we train and then go into column 2 and get this copied and pasted over, plus add that button. So let's just paste that there. I know we're gonna add a button, so the one thing I'll probably wanna do is give this about 25 pixels of space below so that when I go and add that button, it's already set up. So we'll say add, let's call this button, and grab another one of our standard buttons. Again, typically I like to use HubSpot CTAs for all their tracking. If you have access to that feature, I definitely would. I'm just doing this for the sake of speed. Get started. Again, I'm gonna use this as my primary, since my primary button color right now is just the standard default black, and it's gonna really pop off of that white background. Okay, now that we got that, we wanna go into this next section right here. So I wanna show you a cool little trick that I use pretty often. Since we wanna kind of repeat a little bit of this, what I like to do is I'll come in and I'll do a clone of this module, since that's basically the exact style I want, and I'll just drag this down the page. That way it's all set up and I can just start editing it. So instead, I'll just go in here and let's just say pricing structure and paste that here. And we want to make sure that that is actually centered. And we're good to go. Cool. The next thing we want to do is we want to come back over to our add tab and we want to add or grab a pricing table. So let's see if I can grab the pricing table and drag this right into place. Now we've already got 3 set up. This is going to be another time where I'm going to just, for the sake of time, not add all the content. But let's go ahead and go under the row styles. I'm gonna give it the same background color so that we can actually make the 2 kind of connect. And then I wanna take care of some of the spacing up here to really link these 2. So I'll go to spacing options and I'll maybe set the top to like extra small. Tablet top, probably the same, extra small. And that's already looking quite a bit better. So a couple other things that I wanna do while I'm in here is I want that same rounded corner effect. So I'll just come over here to rounded corners. I'll give it the same border radius as the other elements that I have on the page. And then I can go into each of these sections and just dial in their content. So if I go here, I can go into each of these packages. So let's just do a couple of these and I'll quickly show you. So you can edit the package name, add some bullet points, and most importantly, come in here and add a button. So in this case, I'm just gonna do get started. And I'm gonna leave the rest, the content the same, just so that we can get through this. Package 2, and the reason I wanted to call this one out, let's go ahead and go into package 3, and we're just gonna dial in and get this button so that these at least can look pretty consistent. So we'll use standard buttons. I'll go back over here and we'll do that same get started. Cool. Now for this section, what I wanna actually do is I wanna come in and go back to make it a little bit more narrow, like our example here. I think this pricing table actually looks pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back one more. And in this particular module, we go into row settings again, and then we're gonna do slim. Let's just see how slim looks. That's actually maybe too slim. So in this case, what I would want to do is maybe a custom so that we can use our 1140 once again and just have that consistency down the page, which actually looks pretty good. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I think if anything, I would come into this pricing structure and go into the styles tab and add a little bit more space underneath that. So since we have that most popular, I'd probably bounce that to like 50, just so that it's not riding too close. Let's just see how that looks. Cool, that looks way, way better in my opinion. So, okay, cool, we got this part. What is left? Of course, some testimonials. Highly encourage it, especially on any page you're trying to convert, like a pricing page. So we're gonna follow that same technique. Now, one thing you're gonna notice is we're doing that same gradient process all the way down, so you get that nice fade effect. So I'm gonna show you how to do that in just a second as well. But what we wanna do is we wanna actually do that same process where I'm gonna clone this guy, because we're gonna go ahead and, whoops, let's just grab this, move that right down here. And now we can start to build in this lower section. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this. So we can add that text here. Boom, let's just make sure it's centered. And cool. That's looking good. Now for the testimonial card, again, what we want to use is the Versa Cards module. Just so you understand, one of the reasons why I have one module that can do a lot is because it allows me far more options to create these cool different designs that follow a similar pattern. So for example, we'll do Versa Cards and we'll drag that in. And they're cards. It's a card design pattern. So what I've done is I've basically built in this setting where you can go under Start here and choose the different card types. Now I'm gonna be adding different card types to this over time. So this just makes it really easy to keep these modules update and then add other specialty modules. So in this case, we'll do testimonial cards. I only want 3. That's totally fine. And I don't need any sort of search or filter. So let's go ahead and just apply changes so that we can see what those look like. And then we can come in and start to add some of our content. So let's just do a couple of these. In my case, I'm not going to use an image, but you certainly can. But I will just pop on over here and copy our friendly testimonials. So I'll grab that. I'll grab that. I'm not going to use a title in this case. And I am going to use the star rating. I actually like the star rating. Probably not a good idea to use anything less than 3 stars, but I encourage the star rating. Now let's go ahead and do the others really quick so we can get all 3 of these in line and looking good. Now this next button is really handy because I can just jump right on over to the next card really easily. So that's something you can do instead of having to come up here each and every time. So we'll grab that. Let's grab the name and pop on over here, paste the name and apply changes. We'll do one more and then we're gonna move on to this gradient effect just to kind of close off this section. So let's remove this, paste, and then let's get Sophia's name in here and we'll remove that title and let's apply changes and kind of see where we're at. Cool, that's looking good. So what do we need to do next? We need to come into the Styles tab and we'll go into the section settings, and this is where I want to add our gradient. So again, we're gonna do top to bottom. I'm gonna do this gray tone and we're gonna send it all the way to white. And let's see how this looks. Okay, that's looking great. Now we need to tune up some space here. So let's go back here and go into the row settings. And this is where we're gonna do the spacing around the content. And again, I'm gonna do 0 or just delete, and apply changes here to get that up a little bit closer. Okay, that's actually, let's see how it's looking compared to this other one. Okay, so we want to basically get a little bit more consistency. So this space should be very consistent with this space right here. So what I would do is I'd actually come into that module above and, whoops, let's go back down to it. Go into this module and then tune up that space as well. So row settings, space around content, and then we'll do 25 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, now we're talking. See that consistency? Consistency is key. Last step here is we would want to go into the styles, and of course we want to make sure our rounded corners are consistent. So we can come right down here and do 10 pixels of rounded corners. Now we are almost done with our page and it's actually looking pretty good. So the next section is this let's get started. So while I'm here, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste this text. And we wanna go back, whoops, we wanna go back over, and once again, the magic module wins the day. We'll drag that right there. And then we're gonna start to kind of dial in this last main call to action. So with this one, what we wanna do is it's going to be one column, so we don't really need to change anything here. But what I do wanna do is come into the styles settings and go into the section. So here is where we're going to do a slim width, which I might change in a second. And then we're gonna go into the background image of the actual row, and we can add a specific image right into the row itself. So if I browse images, we're gonna go ahead and add this image right here. Now the one thing that I wanna do, because I'm gonna have text on top of the image, is I definitely wanna add some sort of overlay. So we'll add like a, let's see, just 50%, and we'll see how that actually looks. Once again, hitting apply changes from time to time is always super helpful. Okay, so obviously we have to change our text and text color, but we still want a lot more space. We want this thing to look a little bit more like a rounded box. So let's go back to our row settings and go spacing around the content. So the one thing we want to do is we want to control the inner spacing, and I want to give a little bit of margin on either of these sides. So I'm going to do 50 pixels, and I'll do 50 pixels of margin on the bottom and apply changes. And you're gonna see how that's different from the padding right now. See how that gave us that space right there? That's great. Now if I do like 150 and 150 and apply changes, the container of our content's actually gonna get taller, and that's what I was looking for. So now that we have that, while we're here, let's go ahead and go into the design extras. And we want to add a rounded corner, so we're going to turn that on and apply those changes. Just because we're feeling fancy, let's go ahead and turn on a drop shadow just to kind of like make this really jump off the page. We'll pump this up to like 25, and then this is where you can kind of go in and dial in the direction of the drop shadow. I usually like to just keep it simple. I'm typically only playing with the blur radius or the spread. So let's do something like 30 and just see what happens here. Cool, it's very subtle. So what I might wanna do, since we have a dark image, let's pump that up to 45 and actually see if that looks any better. Cool, now I can still subtle, but I can still see it more. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and dial in our content. So we'll go in here, of course, text, and we'll paste what we had. Again, what I wanna make sure I do is just highlight each element before I align it so we don't have to reformat everything. So we'll do that. And there we go. So now that we've got that, let's make sure we actually turn it to white and then turn on dark color mode. One little trick I've been using and I forgot about is sometimes what I like to do is instead of using exact white, I'll come in here and I'll use like this really light shade of gray. And I forgot to, but one of the cool reasons is so then if dark editor is turned on, it's really faint, but you can kind of see it. I wish HubSpot was a little bit smarter with this and it was just automatically no. But at any rate, little trick for you there. So now that we got that, it's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and add one of our button elements. So we'll say button. Again, let's grab a button content element, and we're just gonna go ahead and do that same process. So standard button, we'll say get started, and then this one, since it's on a dark background, I'm gonna use my tertiary, so it's a light white button. That's gonna look a little bit better. And cool, next thing we need to do is just come back into the button settings and then use the alignment right here for center alignments and hit apply changes. Now we've got our little section set up, and I think we're actually looking good. So let's go ahead and preview our page and see how we did. Not too shabby at all. I really think Luke would be proud. I really hope this long format tutorial was helpful. And if you do find it helpful and you'd love more of these sort of like long form walkthrough tutorials of me building out pages using some of the Clean Pro modules, please definitely let me know in the comments below. I hope for your sake you put me in like chipmunk mode of like 1.3x speed so you could get through this faster than 45 minutes. But I just wanted to at least do a full page build out to help you really understand how you can maximize all of the Clean Pro modules so that you can build a killer website. With that, I'm out. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one.